Okay, friends, I want to double down on the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 statements, the 10 commandments as they're called, that we mentioned already. There are not 10 commandments in the 10 commandments. There are 13. 9 and 4. Okay, that's an interesting. Why? Because the second commandment is actually divided up into 4. So you have 9 and 4 becomes 13. But they are actually 10 statements, 10 ideas, 10 principles that have within them a lot of philosophy and halakha that goes with them. Anyway, I want to focus on something we've mentioned before, but I want to go a little bit deeper into it because it's very, very interesting for me. First of all, the first word of the Aseret HaDibrot is Anochi. Now, Anochi is a very interesting and unusual word. We don't use that word in modern Hebrew today. If you want to say I in Hebrew, you say Ani. Ani is I. So what's Anochi? Right? You don't walk around Israel saying Anochi olech chanut. I'm going to the store. You know, Anochi olech lebet knesset. You sound like a weirdo. Instead, the word Ani, but Ani is limited, or actually, it's not limited to be fair. Ani is I, but it could be you. I go somewhere, but you can go somewhere. So Ani is very, very subjective as to the person being spoken about. Anochi means it is I. It is only I. And although there are people in the Torah who use that word, it is used sparingly because it refers primarily to Hashem and is the Aleph of Anochi that gives it away over here, and the Nun, and the Chaf, and the Yud. The Gemara tells us the word Anochi is an acronym for 4 words. Anochi, Ana, Nafshi, Ketavti, Yahavti. Ana means I. Nun is Nafshi, my soul. This is Hashem, God speaking. I, my soul. Ketavti has been written, and Yahavti, and given over to you. So the word Anochi means it is only I, because it is only Hashem that gave us the Torah. So it's a very unique. When Moshe Rabbeinu met Paro, he said, I'm here to represent the God of Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey. And Paro said, we got tons of gods. We got thousands. He actually had a book of gods. And Moshe Rabbeinu said, no, this is the unique God, the creator of Shemayim Va'aretz. There is only one God. If you want to know who this God is, you need to look in the Torah, which hadn't been given at that point actually. But God's name was known up to this point. But over here, the name of HaKadosh Baruch of God became the Yud and the Hey and the Vav. And the Hey was no through that format. And so Moshe Rabbeinu created a new idea, or introduced to the entire world, via Pharaoh, the idea of the oneness. That God wrote the Torah, gave the Torah, and if you want to understand God, there's various ways to do it. But the best way to do it is to look in the Torah. That's the Anochi. I, my soul, can be understood by looking at what was written and given. Written where? In the Torah. Given where? At Har Sinai. So that is the opening statement. Interestingly, right afterwards, it says, who took you out of Egypt. So if this were God's opening statement to the world at Har Sinai, it's not much of a statement, is it? I am the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt. It should say who created the world, the universe, the trillions of planets, the universes. The fact that your heart is beating right now is because of me. There's a lot of opening statements that would have been, dare I say, greater. They're saying, I'm the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt. The Ramban tackles this question. Why is Egypt seen as the paradigm of understanding, of knowing God, of seeing God in His greatest glory? And the answer the Ramban, Nachmanides, gives is that I can't fathom the billions of universes, the limitless stars, creation, the fact that the entire world and universe is created and maintained by God, but I can appreciate God saving me. When I say me, I mean me as a Jew, because my and your great-great-great-grandparents were slaves in Egypt. And it was God who went into Egypt and took us out. right? A goy mitoch goy, a nation from a nation. So I can relate to that. I can relate to the fact that I am a free person alive today because God took us out. So the idea of Hashem took us out of Egypt, says the Ramban, is talking about not just a God who created the universe and everything, but there is a personal God. There is a hashgacha. God's, in other words, there were many nations, including the Egyptians in their day, who believed in, well, many gods actually. And that's something. You can even believe that God created the world. But are you a believer that God is intimately involved in your life? That God is mashkiach. There is a hashgacha, that God is actually controlling the elements and the activities and the events in this world. Now that is revolutionary. How do you give over that idea? So Moshe told Paro, you see, God is coming in to take us out via these miracles, the 10 makot, right, that actually are reflected in these 10 commandments, of which Anochi is the first one. So it all comes together not by some outside God who creates and is not involved in this world. What the Jewish people introduced, or Moshe introduced via the Jewish people and via the Bnei Israel in Mitzrayim, is that God is actively involved in this world as well. Something which many people did not believe, and let's be honest, many people don't believe today either. That God is intimately involved. How does he show that? By taking a nation out of another nation, like taking a child out of the womb and giving them a new life. Okay, I want to discuss something else, and that is a very, very famous Mechilta and Midrash that actually Rashi mentions in the Sefer of Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs. And he says that the fact that Torah was given initially in the form of 10 commandments, and these 10 commandments or 10 statements were put onto 2 tablets is very telling. Because we know the first tablet, we've mentioned before, is Bein Adam La Makom, between us and Hashem. And the second tablet is Bein Adam La Chavero, between us and each other. But the fact that these were given on 2 separate tablets, and these 2 tablets were identical in size and shape and weight, and they were put next to each other, teaches us that the mitzvah between us and Hashem and the mitzvah between us and each other are diametrically connected and compared and contrasted by the fact they're put next to each other. So the 10 commandments aren't just an audio experience, they're also a visual experience as they're put side by side, to know that the mitzvah between us and Hashem and the mitzvah between us and each other are connected and equal in every way, shape, or form. You can't just be I believe in the Torah, right, of Hashem, and therefore I'm only doing mitzvah between me and Hashem. It's not sufficient. There are mitzvahs between us and each other. And it's not enough to say, well, I'm a nice person, and I don't get jealous, and I don't take revenge, I don't get angry, and I'm honest in business. That's also not sufficient, because we have mitzvah between us and God. And therefore Hashem gave the Aseret Dibrot as 2 tablets of equal size, weight, and vision next to each other. But Rashi goes further. And Rashi says also, these 5 and 5 are connected horizontally as well. There is a horizontal connection between the first 5 and the second 5. So he says quite famously that commandment number 1 is connects to commandment 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? Because that's on the side of between us and God. But it's also connected horizontally to number 6. And 2 to 7, 3 to 8, 4 to 9, and 5 to 10. There is a vertical relationship, but there is also a horizontal relationship because they're put next to each other. Can you see that? So you have number 5 here and 5 here, but you also see them interlaced one to the other horizontally. So you can see a reflection of number 1 to number 6. Well, let's just talk about that for a second. What's commandment number 1? We just told you. That is the mitzvah. And actually, this is the source for the mitzvah to believe in God. Is commandment number 1 of the Aseret Dibrot. Right? Rambam, in his Sefer Mitzvot, lists the first mitzvah to believe in God. And he says, well, where do you know that? Where's the mitzvah? Where's it written? We know the mitzvah of Shabbat is mentioned a number of times. We know the mitzvah of Yom Kippur. We know the mitzvah of Tzedakah. But where is this mentioned? He says that's number 1 of these 10. It's given as a statement of fact. I'm the Lord your God. that has inside it the mitzvah d'oraita to believe in God. So let's connect that to number 6. What's commandment number 6? Lo tirtzach. Do not kill. Do not kill each other. Actually, a better translation is murder, because you are allowed to kill in self-defense, even preemptively, as we're seeing right now, Baruch Hashem. But also you cannot murder. Murder is the real aver over here. So Rashi says, well, what's the connection between number 1, which is mitzvah to believe in God, and number 6, which is do not murder? It's a great question. And he answers and says, very interesting, there's many answers. The Mechilta gives its own connection as well, and many others do. But he says that where do we know we cannot kill? From God. God decides and says you can't kill. Well, why would I think differently? Well, many nations and societies over history have, believed in God and said, well, because of God, I'm going to go kill. I'm going to, fly a plane into a building, or I'm going to blow myself up. Or I'm going to go and kill a bunch of people in the name of God. And Hashem is saying, no. Life is precious. I'll tell you when you can and cannot kill. Okay. Also, you can add to that, right, that animals will kill each other. And they are held blameless for doing that. Lions kill animals in the, Sahara, wherever they are all the time, in the jungles. Right? They're okay to do that. Why are they allowed to do that? Why can we not kill each other for money or pride or food? Only in self-defense. If we are just human animals, then if I get hungry, just like the lion takes a bite out of the neck of the animal to feed itself and its family, then I can take a bite out of a person's neck in order to feed myself as well. And yet we know that's terrible. Why? So it goes back to number 1, because I'm the Lord your God. So the fact that we have this high element of neshama, that we have to be careful who we kill, and don't just kill people just for the fun of it, for pride or just for, money. Yeah? Same thing. We know that because the two are connected. Our mitzvah of do not kill is because we have a higher level neshama. There is more expected of us than animals who kill on a whim because of whatever reason, in order to impact upon us and impress upon us that the mitzvah do not kill is connected to number 1, which is there is a God. Otherwise, let's just go kill each other for whatever reason that we have. But in addition to that, are you allowed to kill God? Is it possible to kill God? It's a great question. Can you kill God? No. It's impossible to kill God. But Rashi says, actually it is possible to kill God by denying God's existence. When you deny there is a God, in a sense, you are killing God in this world. You're making a chilul Hashem. Chilul means a desecration of God's name. Come to the word halal, which means an empty void. Halal, as we say, nekavim, chalolim. You're making a void of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So now we're saying the mitzvah to believe in God is to acknowledge there is a God. How do you not acknowledge there's a God? By not believing in God. And by doing so, you're actually transgressing number 1 and number 6 by saying, I do not believe there is a God, and therefore my actions are not going to be elevated by God's existence. I'm going to be like an animal that doesn't have a neshama. And so the key connection between number 1 and number 6 is acknowledgement. We acknowledge there's a God. How? By not killing each other. By believing in God and saying that life is precious, and every human, man, woman, and child, has a neshama. And so acknowledgement is that which connects number 1 and number 6. That is the key word that comes out of the connection. I want to just one more connection, if you don't mind. We have a few minutes. And that is the bottom 2. Commandment number 5 is kabed et avicha ve'et imecha. Of the 10 commandments, of the Seret Dibrot, you have to honor your mother and father. And there are many halachot that we learn out from this particular mitzvah. Actually, the fact that it's put on the first tablet, which are mitzvah between us and God, means that honoring parents actually is a godly attribute. That's why we call God Avinu Shebashamayim, right? He is God He is our Father in heaven. Okay, there is a connection between us honoring our parents and honoring God, which is why that command is found in the first 5, which are between us and God, not which you would have thought logically on the second 5, 6 through 10, which are between us and each other. Therefore, the connection to God comes from a healthy connection between us and our parents, even if our parents weren't so great or aren't so great. The mitzvah of kibbud doesn't have to love your parents, it says you have to honor them. Okay? Now, on the other side, what's number 10? Lo tachmod, don't be jealous. So he said the fact they're put next to each other means they are interwoven, interlaced one with another. So the commandment number 5 is honor your mother and father. And number 6 is don't be jealous. How are they connected? What's the connection? So I heard from one of my Rabbanim, but Rashi hints to this as well when he says it's possible to be jealous of other people's parents. Why would you do that? Oh, I wish my father was a billionaire like Elon Musk. You don't want him as a father-in-law. He's great, but you don't want him as a father or a father-in-law. I wish my father was rich and wealthy. I wish my father was the great rabbi or teacher. Oh, then it could be great. We all, unfortunately, at some point say, oh, if only my parents were like their parents. Right? Then that could be great. Right? Why does he born into this family? I should born into that family. By the way, having parents who are great rabbanim is not so simple. Right? It's not such a bracha. Right? Everyone's watching you, expecting a standard of behavior from you when you're very young, because your father's the rabbi, right? Your father, you should be acting in a certain way. You know, you should be learning from your parents. Right? It becomes a bit of a baton you get hit with, unfortunately. Right? So being the child of a great tzaddik or tzaddikat or a great rabbi comes with a lot of pressure that most of us are not aware of. But leaving that aside, the mitzvah is don't be jealous of other people's parents. The parents you were born to were the parents you needed to be born to. There's not a coincidence. Before you came to this world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided who your parents are. That means actually it works upwards and downwards. Hashem decides who your kids are as well. All right? Oh, if only my kids behave like those kids. If only my kids better behave. You know, everyone thinks that their kids are the worst behaved and the kids who come to their home are suddenly behaving very well. Yeah, that's because they're in your home. But if you saw those kids in their home, it's a whole different story. Okay? Don't be jealous. Honor the mother and father you have because they were the ones that were selected to be your parents, whether for good or bad, whether for challenge or easiness, whatever it is. And also, don't be jealous of other people's kids. All right? I've had many Balei Tshuva who come to me. Oh, I wish my parents were religious. I wouldn't have to go through this, become religious in my teens or my 20s or 30s. And I say, it was meant to be this way for you. Right? It was this way for Rabbi Akiva. It was this way for Moshe Rabbeinu. Right? Some of our greatest heroes and heroines, right, had to come from families. Came from Rivka as well. Rivka came from a very, very terrible family. Yeah? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu was telling us that the parents that we have and the kids that we have come to us for a very specific reason. Lo tachmod. Don't be jealous. Those parents, those kids were given to you for a very specific and important reason. You may not realize it now, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides who, when, where should be born to whom, which family, and by the way, not just the right parents, but the parents at that time. Right? You were born today for a specific reason, not 1,000 years ago, thank God, right? Or 500 years ago, when people were just dying from, I don't know, septicemia or whatever it was, right? Where having a tooth extracted became extremely, lethal thing. Baruch Hashem made us be born right now. There's a lot of the challenges we have today. But also the time period that you're born to those parents is also not a coincidence, right? In our generation, we were born in very spiritually and physically challenging times, and that's not a coincidence. We have to realize that's also Min Hashemayim. And being born in the pre-Messianic era comes with its own challenges as well. More about that another time. Okay? So appreciation, lo tachmod, don't be jealous. The parents you have are meant to be yours. The kids you have are meant to be yours. And everything that comes with it as well. It's all min hashemayim, and that can be seen and reflected. So the key word that connects those last two dibrot are acceptance. Accept the parents that you have, and also accept what you own as well. Lo tachmod, don't be jealous of other people's things as well. Accept who you are, where you come from, when you were born, what you have, what you don't have. It's all Min Hashemayim as well. That's the mitzvah of really accepting Hashgacha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's knowledge and giving you exactly what you need to fulfill your mission in this world. Have a great day.